Okay, our next speaker is Michael Mendillo. I'm just looking for him. Oh, there he is. And so Michael was the CEDAR chair from 1996 to 1997. Is that right? 1 year. Just 1 year? Yes, that is right. And so Michael will talk to us a little bit. Some of you may have seen Michael's article in the EOS September 1st, 2009. And I've asked Michael to maybe talk about that and talk about what the feedback has been on with regard to his article in the EOS press. So, and then Michael, as Michael will embellish. All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for pointing out that this is not a talk of anecdotes, but I was given an assignment. He said, why don't you tell the group what the reaction and feedback you got from your EOS article? For those of you fortunate enough not to read EOS every week, I wrote this sort of mild, milquetoasty essay last September addressing a concern that had been bothering me for several years. And so for those who might not have read it, in just a few words, the issue addressed the proper term or longevity of members of our community giving advice. If you think about it, careers ranging from baseball to business, you sort of ramp up, and then you perform at hopefully a high level of activity, and then ramp down. In the field of giving scientific advice, which has helped this community so much, that law doesn't happen. In science, you ramp up, maybe after you got your PhD and your postdoc years, and it just never turns over. You're just alleged to be getting older and wiser and having greater experiences. And this embodies you with the ability to give better and better advice. And I suggested that there's a fallacy in that scheme. And the phrase that raised the most discussion was my use of subdiscipline and institution protection. That's what advice happens at the top of this ramp, is that our senior colleagues want to preserve what got them to be senior colleagues, and subdiscipline protection is the way to do it, and institution protection is the way to do it. That might not be such a bad idea, except that it hurts scientific progress. And it truly does, because it eliminates creativity and the opportunities for others with good ideas to flourish. So I wrote this essay, sent it off to EOS. By the way, they just don't publish them willy-nilly. They have them refereed, they do editing, and so it took quite a while to get it past all of their censors. By the way, this is the, I think it's June 23rd is the anniversary of Galileo's trial, so bear that in mind. That's happening this week, right? Well, the response I got was, in terms of physical responses, that is emails or phone calls, was about 125, 150 separate communications, which kept me pretty busy for September, October, and November. What was surprising to me, and I truly mean that, is that they were virtually all positive. They came not only from the areas of the space physics and astronomy community, but from all of the disciplines of AGU, saying the same thing happens in volcanology, or the same thing happens in this area, or the same thing happens in that area. And so I found that encouraging, at least. There was, however, one negative letter, and it was a very good negative letter. It was written by our good friend and colleague Jim Birch, and it went through refereeing and it went through editing, and then the last moment, I guess Jim realized, or he thought, that it raising issues about the CSSP, Committee on Solar and Space Physics, that sponsored the decadal survey. It wasn't good to air that kind of linen and maybe Southwest's manipulation of it. And so at the last minute, he refused to let AGU publish that letter on the grounds that it might hurt his chance to be elected president of AGU. So the letter was never published, and just like John McCain, fair and square, he lost the election. I had nothing to do with it. All right. The other interesting thing that happened in the fall was at the AGU meeting, where I had some personal interactions with some colleagues. And these all occurred in that members' lounge, where there are these big round tables and people sit down there and avoid going to the meetings and drink free coffee. And I think on every day of the meeting, 3 or 4 different people came up during the course of the week and sat down, and after saying hello, they'd say something very much like, "So, Michael, you really are in favor of Obama's death panels?" These are people who I had suggested that after 33 years of giving advice, after 3 solar cycles, that was the theme of my essay, 33 years of advice is enough for anyone, that maybe you want to develop a new course, write a book, smell the roses, go work for your local school system. They equated that with a death panel. That's what control freaks turn out to be, I guess. So it's very, very strange. Picking up on the death panel theme, I heard today that the Dr. Kevorkian of aeronomy at NASA has retired. So that's going to be good news for death panels everywhere. All right. The other surprising thing I had at the AGU meeting was that a few friends said that our friends at NSF are a little concerned that there was no NSF bashing in your essay. So I could not figure that out at all right? What was that all about? And it turns out that there wasn't much, there wasn't any NSF bashing, and therefore some thought that I should have pointed out that these problems don't occur at NSF. Well, is there subdiscipline protection at NSF sometimes, or institution protection, at least attempts by panel members? Of course it is. It's part of human nature. The difference is it is far, far less. And that's with a capital F-A-R. And with my Boston accent, it's F-A-A-A-A-A-A-A, far, all right? But far, far, far less. The living example of advice being handled in the proper way, I think, is in the Phase 3 document. I played a small role in that, and we're exercising that type of initiative again here, as we heard this morning. CEDAR Phase 3, I think, is as good as it gets for a community advisory process. The bulk of the work was done by one CSSP, that's CEDAR Science Steering Committee, that Jeff Forbes was chairman of, and created what became the document. But then it was turned over, as happens, to the next CEDAR steering committee that I, by chance, was chairman of. And we massaged it a bit. It had some new members. Shananda and I were working on it as editors at the time, and we sent pieces out to different members of the community who had not been part of the process. And it was vetted in that sense. I think the document emerged as a strong document and had such remarkable longevity because of the integrity of the process. And we're celebrating the results of that integrity of that process here this evening. We should all be very proud. Each one of the members who have served on that steering committee over the years, each in his or her own way, has added to the integrity of the advisory process that has guided this community, and for the leaders at NSF who worked with the community in every conceivable way to generate the success that we're celebrating in this room. So, congratulations to everyone, and let's keep up the good work in the next evolution of the next document that Jeff is working on. Thank you.